Hello and a good morning, good afternoon and a very good evening to you, doing a little bit of the tube report today. Hope you're feeling grand and all's going well. Welcome to the Q&A Wednesday, everybody. Let's dive into question one today, shall we? I think we shall. Hello. Okay, so question one today is there a certain way you would set up your Katana when using pedals? Okay. Yeah, I mean, There's multiple ways you can do that with a Katana, because the Katana's it's an extremely pedal friendly amplifier, the Katana is, so there's like multiple ways you could actually do that. But the way I set my if I'm running my pedal board through the Katana, this is what I do. So sorry, that's I don't know if the camera will pick it up, but that's people loading outside. We're in a different place today. I thought there's a nice window. It looks like I've woken up in Silent Hill. I'll show you in a bit. But yeah, weird. Anyway, back to the question. Before we go off on that, yeah, the way I set my Katana up, if I'm using my pedal board, is I use the acoustic setting on the amp. And I have it on the acoustic setting. I normally put gain and volume all the way up. No bass. The bass is all the way down. I normally have middle at half, so 12 o'clock. And I have treble about, I think it's around 10 o'clock-ish. Does have the right amount of sparkle. Presence is in at 12 o'clock as well. Oh, no, Presence is off. Sorry, I do apologise. Presence is all the way off, I think. No, it's not. Sorry, I do apologise. I was right the first time. Presence is at 12 o'clock. And then I have reverb on at about 12 o'clock as well on the green mode. So I use the acoustic setting. I find the acoustic setting works really well for pedals. If you're getting your sound from pedals, I find the acoustic setting on the Katana works an absolute dream. Like it's a real, it really, really kind of like works really well. So that's how I do it. But if I was to go, but there is another way I was running it as well, because I do have a clean setting on the Katana as well. So for instance, like I'm using a different kind of pedal setup. Say for instance, I just want to run a fuzz pedal into the Katana. I just want a fuzz pedal and maybe a wah-wah pedal. Maybe I just want just those two pedals and not my main pedal board with all the effects. Maybe I just want like a fuzz, and a wah-wah like Jimi Hendrix style, or say DS2 and wah-wah pedal like John Frusciante or something like that. Like a simplistic setup, something very simple that, if I just need, or just a fancy one, like, you know what I mean? What I would do then is I would run through the brown mode. And what I would do is I would go through the brown mode and I would set the gain all the way down. I'd turn the gain all the way off, basically. Volume all the way up. The bass would probably be about 12 o'clock, if not a bit more, depending. Treble and middle would both be on 0. I'll turn them both down. Presence then would be at 12 o'clock. And I'd have reverb again on the green mode about 12 o'clock, but that'd dial in to suit how I felt. But that'd be another way I would set it up as well, depending. But I think they would be the only two that, if I was using pedals, they would be the only two I'd use. So I'd use the acoustic mode if I was getting all my sound from a pedal board. Which is what I normally do. If I go out playing live, all my sounds come from pedals. I don't really use the amp. The amp's there for power more than anything. It's project stuff. I don't really use the amp's kind of like sound, so to say. If that makes it, well, I do, but I don't. If that makes any sense, I don't rely on the amp for the sound. The pedals do the kind of like the work, so to say. And I say the other one, like I say, if I just felt like doing something a bit different, it would be like I say. Using brown mode with gain all the way down and the EQ I explained, and then I'll just run the pedals into the front end. So that would be the two ways I would run it. Like I say, the acoustic channel, if you're using your pedals for your sound, is what I would recommend. That's the way to go for me, if that makes any sense. Like if you're just using pedals for your core sounds and you're not really using the amp for its kind of thing, I would go for the acoustic mode. But if you are wanting to use the Katana's kind of like tone, I would use the brown mode and set and set it clean. If you know what I mean, because the brown mode has a really lovely way of accepting pedals. The lead mode's really good, the crunch mode is really good, and the clean mode's really good. But the brown mode accepts anything. The clean channel can be a bit finicky. The crunch channel can be a bit finicky. The lead channel's really good, but it's not as good as the brown mode for accepting pedals. So that'd be the two ways that I would kind of like say. That is the two ways I set up my katana for like using pedals. Really, I can't think if there's any other way I've ever done it. No, there isn't. I mean that is the only way I've ever set up my katana. I don't really use the lead mode for pedals. Although you can. The lead mode is really good for pedals as well. But the lead mode, if I was to use the lead mode, I think what I'd be using it for is more of like a Jimi Hendrix sound. So it'd be a little bit more overdriven. It wouldn't be particularly cleanish, you know what I mean? It'd be a bit more overdriven. And yeah, that would probably be a channel I'd run a fuzz through. But in all fairness, I think I'd prefer to just use the brown mode and just turn the gain up a bit, so it kind of got into that Hendrix kind of territory. But yeah, so there we go. But yeah, that's the two ways I would do it myself. Like I say, if I'm using my pedal board, I use the acoustic mode. If I'm not, if I want to use the sound of the amp, then I use the brown mode and to set it clean or a little bit dirtier. Well, not clean, cleanish, and John Frusciante kind of sound. And then to kind of like boost up the gain for a while bit more, but then I'd run pedals into it because I say the brown mode does accept pedals really really nicely. So how about this question? I can't think if there's anything else I need to add to that at this point in time. So I'm going to move on to question 2, which is another katana setting. What is a good katana setting for Rory Gallagher? Okay, so Rory had a million different sounds. He never had particularly one sound because he had a sound for taste. And he had that's the tone he had in Taste kind of carried over to his first solo album. But once you get into stuff like the Irish Tour and albums like Tattoo and stuff like that, his tone changes because he used different amps. He stopped using the Vox AC30 and went to like Fender Bassman and the Fender Concert. I think he had a Twin as well, but I associate Rory with the Bassman and the Fender Concert. They're the ones you always see behind him at gigs, especially around that kind of like that 70s, mid to mid 70s kind of period. But yeah, because his tone changed then there, and then it changed again after Lou Martin left. To a bit of a it had to be bigger. Because obviously, when Rory changed to Fender, it's because he had to find a sonic space that he could live in that would accommodate the keyboards. Because obviously in Taste and the first kind of like Rory Gallagher albums, he didn't have to do that. They were just a free piece. But when Lou Martin came in, Rory had to change his tone slightly so Lou Martin could fit in. Sonically the frequencies changed and he had to accommodate that. So when Lou Martin left and they were back as a free piece again, and Ted McKenna came in on drums and Rod DF left, Rory had to get a bigger sound. So he switched to Marshalls and Ampeg as well. And also I've seen him with Mesa Boogie. But the thing about Rory is he would never run one amp. Rory would always run multiple amplifiers. He would always run multiple amps. I've seen at a gig where he's using... I think it's a Rock Palace gig. He's using the Fender Concert and an Ampeg together, and it makes a great sound. And he's obviously got them boosted in some way, shape, or form because he always had these weird boxes on top of his amplifiers. So he switched. That was like a transition there from Fender to Ampeg, and then he switched to Marshalls, and it was the 50-watt JMP combos, 2x12 combos, which he switched to for a while. He was using them. You can see them in like the Belfast gig and stuff like that. But then he would combine that with the Vox AC30. There was always combinations of amps going around with Rory. It was never just one amp. There was always 2 or 3. You know what I mean? Or in the case of one Rock Palace gig, I swear he's got about 4 going. I swear, because he's got a Vox AC30, a Marshall JMP 50-watt combo, and he's also got 2 Mesa Boogies, and they're tiny little combos, but he's running all 4, and you can see him. He goes back at the beginning of the gig. He goes back and tweaks them all, and it's a weird setup. So, and then later on in life, at the end of his career, he went to the Marshall JMP. Went to a Marshall. it was kind of like a, I don't know if it's a Super League Mark II or the Master Volume Marshall head with a cab, because he switched to that as well, and he also had the tried and true AC30. Excuse me. And then also there was a blues breaker in there as well towards the right end of his career. So and Rory towards the end of his career actually used pedals more. And Rory would actually have a Boss distortion pedal on top of the amplifier. And this Boss distortion pedal had a graphic EQ, and that was his main distortion sound. He just basically turned it on, left it on all the time, and just did everything from his guitar. Anyway, I've gone off on this massive Rory tangent, but the whole point of that is it's quite hard to say, because, say, Rory had so many different sounds, and, say, running multiple different amps, you get a very distinctive sound. But what I would do if I was going for like a Rory tone, because my favourite Rory tone is when he's running the Marshall JMPs. No surprise there, I'm a Marshall fanatic. I love Marshall amps. So, no wonder. But I do love his Vox AC30 sound, especially the Taste tone. The tone he has in Taste, I think, is wicked. But I do love his Marshall, more overdriven tone that he had when he was using the JMPs. The version of Bad Penny in Paris is a classic example of that sound. It's just this big, clunky rock sound with tons of sustain and just massive. It's wicked. So that would be the sound I would go for. And to get that kind of sound, what I would do is I would go to the brown mode again on the Katana, and I think I would run the gain. Because I think what I would do is I would use a pedal to boost for solos, and I would kind of like maybe just run. I don't know. No, I think what I'd do is I'd use the brown mode. I would crank the gain all the way, the volume all the way. I'd probably have bass at around 12 o'clock again. No mids, no treble, no presence, really, unless I'm using the 50 watt. If I was using the 50 watt Katana, the presence would always be at 12 o'clock, which, again, wouldn't be a big issue, to be honest with you. And then I'd probably put a booster on, and I'd probably put the low gain booster on. I think it's the red colour. And just run that really low, maybe about like 9, 10 o'clock-ish. And then I'll just set it and forget it. And then I'll just use position 2 on my Strat all the time, if my Strat had position 2. Because I don't really like that position 2, unless, I like Rory's sound for it, but I don't really like it otherwise. Because Rory used it with a big overdrive sound, and I like that. It wasn't like, the Steve Ray Vaughan way of running position 2. So I would, probably use the brown mode, run the gain all the way up, volume all the way up, bass at 12, no mid, no treble. Presence would either be at 12 o'clock or 0, depending on how bright I want it to be. Probably run the booster, like I say, I don't know if it's the red booster or the yellow booster, if it's the low gain one, I forget without doing it. And, I'll tell you what, let's go and do it, let's go and find out. Okay, so it's actually really, really difficult to settle on a Rory-esque sound. Like I say, there's so many tones that he had, they're kind of all rattling around in my head, and I'm trying to settle on one. But this is what I've got. So let me tell you what the EQ is I've got really quickly. I'm on the brown mode. I've got gain all the way up, volume all the way up, bass is all the way down. Middle is at 10 o'clock, so I've got mid about there as you're looking at it. So it's at 10 o'clock. Treble is all the way down. I'll come to the booster / mod in a minute. Delay and effects I'm not using at all. I've got a tiny bit of reverb on the green reverb, and it's set to 10 o'clock. Just a little bit of reverb, nothing too drastic. Losing the ability to speak. And then presence is all the way up. I've dimed the presence dial, so presence is cranked to the teeth. And I'm basically going to use position 2 on the Strat with these basically those 2 pickups, and it does give you that kind of gives you that kind of Rory-esque kind of thing. So again, just to recap, I'm on the brown mode, gain is all the way up, volume is all the way up, bass is all the way down, middle is at 10 o'clock, treble is all the way down, I'll get to a booster and mod in a sec. No delay or effects. I've got reverb on the green mode at 10 o'clock, presence is all the way up, and I'm in the 0.5 watt setting at this point in time, which I can kind of talk over. And it cleans up good as well. I mean, it cleans up alright. So you do kind of like a Wonder Who. When you get to a bridge period, it becomes quite stingy, like Rory's did. It's playing D, really. You know, and you can control everything. You know, if you get a tone as well, if you've got a tone on your guitar, you can just darken everything off with the tone on your guitar, which is what Rory did as well. You know, so you can do that kind of pseudo wah-wah thing, you know, that kind of thing. So yeah, so coming quickly to the booster and the mod bit, because I could talk about this all day, and I will if I'm not careful. I probably would use a pedal to boost solos, just to get a little bit more gain. I would probably use a pedal, and then I would use the Katana's mod for the phaser sound that Rory would have. It's just a very subtle kind of phaser, but it's there. That kind of thing. That's probably what I use that for. But you can use the booster. The green booster, I think, works really. But I think I'll probably use a pedal and then use the amp for its phasing. You know, for stuff like shadow playing and Last of the Independents and stuff like that. I think he used phaser on Mississippi Sheiks as well, but I'm not 100% sure. So, you know, stuff like that maybe. And I'll just probably use like a tube screamer or like an overdrive pedal just to boost the Katana a bit more. But that's kind of roughly the kind of sound I've got. I mean, if you go for kind of more of an Irish tour kind of thing, I'd probably lower the gain to about half and probably turn the treble up to about 9 o'clock. But I don't know, that's just me kind of like approximating. But anyway, so yeah, I hope that's answered your question. Say it's just, you know, that's kind of what I would kind of have set up for that kind of Rory thing. But it'd only ever be an approximation. Like I say, Rory would always run 2 amps or 3 or 4. So it's quite hard to pin him down to that one sound. So anyway, but I hope this has helped. And that's it's a cool sound if it's not kind of Rory-esque. It's quite close, but it's not. It's difficult. It's really difficult to get Rory's tone because he had so many. But I'm going for his kind of like Marshall 80s kind of trio kind of tone with hints of the Taste era in there as well. And again, using that position 2 with those 2 pickups on is something Rory would always kind of do. So and also riding the tone control and the volume is something that Rory would always do as well. So just bear that in mind. So I hope this is a question. I'm going to move on to question 3 now. Okay, dokie. So, back upstairs. So I hope that helped. So moving on to question 3 now. Question 3 is: I'm looking for a mini humbucker for my Strat, so it can be more versatile for heavier music, heavier stuff. But I want it to be able to do single coil stuff as well with coil splitting. Do you think I can achieve heavy tones like Nirvana, but also get a good single coil tone like the Red Hot Chili Peppers without it sounding weak with the coil split, coil tap, or whatever it is? What pickup would you recommend? Have you ever tried the DiMarzio Super Distortion, and would that do the job? I have tried the Super Distortion. I've never heard what a Super Distortion sounds like split, and I don't know if you can split the coils on the Super Distortion because I'm not really that kind. I don't really know much about those kind of humbuckers. To be honest, I have tried a Super Distortion a few times, and they are absolutely insane pickups. They're wicked. In all fairness, I really want one. I would love one on a guitar because they've got a really distinctive tone. And being a Kurt Cobain fan, that's what he used. And also being a Dave Murray fan, that's what he used as well. He had a Super Distortion in his in the Paul Kossoff Strat. And I say Kurt had one in his Jaguar. I think Kurt in his Stratocasters used a JB. And I know he used a mini JB in his Mustangs, and the Jag. I think the Jagstang had a mini JB in it as well. Although I don't think that was what they came with stock. I think that was a mod that Kurt did. But I'm pretty because Jaguar had a Super Distortion in the bridge and like a DiMarzio PAF clone thing in the neck. But I think the Vandalism Strat and most of other Kurt Strats were JBs, Seymour Duncan JBs. Again, don't quote me, but I'm pretty sure that's what that was. So, but I've never heard a Super Distortion coil tapped or split, so to say. So I don't really know. My experience with splitting humbuckers to sound out single coils is, you can kind of get an approximate kind of clean tone, but they're never fully a true single coil. They never sound. They never sound 100% right to me personally. But in all fairness, what I would be tempted to do, I don't know, because Andy Timmons uses a pickup called the DiMarzio Cruiser, and that's a humbucker, but with a single coily kind of voice. It's in his AT model Ibanez, and he's used them forever in the neck pickup. Because in the bridge pickup he had a, I think originally Andy Timmons' original pickup in his signature guitar was a JB as well, but that died apparently, and he switched to eventually got his own pickup, which is a DiMarzio made pickup. But the middle selection and the neck was always a DiMarzio Cruiser until recently. He's actually changed it now. The middle pickup looks like a standard single coil. I don't actually know what it is, but he's still got the Cruiser in the neck. It might be an option, the DiMarzio Cruiser. I don't know what they sound like in the bridge position though, but they are a humbucker. And they have that kind of, but saying that Andy Timmons they sound like single coil, so it's not really. I don't know. I don't know what people of the tube help us out here. Has anyone ever coil tapped or coil split a DiMarzio Super Distortion, and can it be done? Because I'm not sure it can be done with a Super Distortion myself. I don't think it's got the split wire. I don't know if they could be modded to do that, but personally, I don't think I would recommend a Super Distortion. Although I would recommend the Super Distortion for Kurt Cobain stuff, but I wouldn't recommend it for maybe coil tappy Red Hot Chili Peppers stuff. People of a tube, help us out here. I'm a bit. I don't really know what to recommend here. If what's a really good humbucker to coil tap and still retain a good single coil kind of snappy tone, like a Strat tone, because. I am kind of drawing a blank actually. Yeah, let's not beat around the bush. I am kind of drawing a blank because, like I said, I would go for something like a DiMarzio Cruiser. But I don't really know. I'm not 100% sure. So people of the tube, leave a comment in the comment section below. Let us know what pickups, what humbuckers you've had experience with that coil tap really nicely to have a nice kind of single coil kind of tone. But when you knock it back into full humbucker mode, it does kind of like big heavy Nirvana kind of tones. Because I say I'm not really experienced in humbuckers and coil tapping, I think, because I'm a single coil guy, really. I don't really use humbuckers that much. So the Wilkinson humbuckers I've got in my Lemon Drop Les Paul copy, they're coil tappable now, or coil splittable, whichever one, whatever it is, and that does a pretty good job of the whole single coil sound. You know, it kind of does. But the thing is, it does sound weak. I know what you mean. It does sound a bit weak. So I'm not really 100% sure it's the. I don't know. I really don't know. Yeah, people of a tube, help us out here. So if you were to get a humbucker that could do heavy stuff, but when you coil tap it, of course, split it does a really nice clean tone, like Chili Peppers kind of can't stop kind of sound. What would you recommend? Because I don't really know what to recommend here. So people of the tube, leave a comment in the section below and let us know what you think, because I don't really know. So yeah, to whoever's question this is, look in the comment section below, because like I said, I'm umming and ahhing about that one. I'm not 100% sure, and I'm not 100% sure you'd ever get a proper, true single coil kind of sound. You know what I mean, out of the humbucker, even if it's coil tapped. But I could be wrong. Like I say, people of the tube, help us out. So I'm going to move on to question 4 now. See that? There you got it wrong. Close. Anyway, so question 4 today is any tips on making your solos more melodic, and how long did it take you to play solos in a melodic way? Okay, so it took me years to be able to play in that melodic way. But I was studying guitarists like John Frusciante and Jimi Hendrix and Dave Gilmour and Peter Green and Mike McCready and and Paul Kossoff, who play in a very, very singy way. You know what I mean? It's like the guitar sings when they play. You know what I mean? It doesn't necessarily just kind of like wail. Well, it can. You know what I mean? That's the wrong word. It doesn't just kind of like it's not just kind of like everything has every note has a meaning behind it. You know what I mean? It's really intense because of that. So tips to make solos more melodic is play slowly, and that's the thing, is like, don't get sucked into the speed trap, because it is a trap, and then if you're not careful it will eat you alive. Okay, back. I really never learn with my phone, do I? Never learn. Anyway, so yeah, solos more melodic. Like I say, play slowly, and you want to be analysing guitarists like John Frusciante and Dave Gilmour and Peter Green, because they have such a unique way of phrasing things, and the way they sing with the guitar, you know what I mean? The way the guitar sings is something else. It really is. So, it's all about kind of like speed has a place in melodic playing, definitely. It has a place. But it's not all the time. It's every now and again, and it needs to be used when you feel like you need to use it, and that whole and it all comes down to feel at the end of the day, of kind of like if you want to play melodically and fluidly and everything has a flow to it, it all comes down to feel, and also comes down to experience. You need to play for quite a long time to develop a natural feel for the guitar. You can emulate that. It's possible to emulate that thing, but to develop your own takes a long time. It takes years to develop that. You can emulate that by learning, Slaying Castle guitar solos by John Frusciante are a perfect place to start looking at melodic guitar solos, especially Scar Tissue. The guitar solos at the Slaying Castle version of Scar Tissue are just gorgeous in so many ways. They're so melodic, and just the way they sing, and even the intro jam at Slaying Castle, the guitar is singing. You know what I mean? It's not playing a million notes, but the notes that John's playing are perfect for what he's trying to convey, and you can see in his face every note means something to him. Every note comes from deep within him. You know what I mean? He's not just playing the guitar. He's playing music. You know what I mean? The guitar is just now part of it. It's not like a separate entity, and he's not a separate entity to the guitar. It's like music, John, and the guitar, and obviously Flea, Chad, and Anthony. They're all the band. They're all one making music. But neither one of them is out on their own. They're all there for the same cause. So what I would recommend to do, like, if you want to learn to start playing more melodically in the guitar solo, is obviously learn your 5/6 pentatonic scales. They're key to any guitarist in the world. More important so that I would say than kind of learning modes and stuff like that. 5/6 pentatonic scales are your bread and butter. If you don't have them, you can't add any filling to the sandwich, so to say. But yeah, learn them. Once you've kind of got them under your fingers, and the thing is, it will sound like you're running scales. I think you said that in your email. It sounds like you're just running scales. It will sound like that. If I was to show you some early recordings of me playing guitar solos, I'll try and solo. That's exactly what it sounds like for me as well. I'm just running scales. It wasn't until learning other people's solos I really started to get a grasp on what I liked personally as notes, and I started to steal basically bits from different guitar players. So I like that lick from Paul Kossoff. I like that lick from John Frusciante. I like that one from Jimi Hendrix. I like that one from Peter Green, Gary Moore, Dave Gilmour. And you start incorporating all these and mash them together. So all of a sudden you'll go from a John Frusciante inspired lick into a Paul Kossoff style lick, and all of a sudden that becomes you. And you start to get a feel. And it's all about letting go as well, and not letting anything distract you from what you're supposed to be doing, which is adding to the piece of music. A guitar solo should never be just kind of like an ego trip. It needs to say something. You need to express through it. It has to mean something. So it doesn't want to just kind of like, hey, look at me, how aren't I amazing kind of thing. You really want to be expressing your inner demons, anxieties, thoughts, whatever. You need to be expressing those through the guitar. So you just need to play slower and more kind of like with kind of melody in mind as well. Instead of just kind of like, like say running scales, you need to start thinking more of a kind of melodic thing. And this will take time, I'm afraid. There is no quick way. There's nothing I can say here that after you do it tomorrow, you'll be able to do it. It's going to take years. That's just the way it is. Sadly, that's the way the guitar is. Nothing is quick with the guitar. Everything takes time. You can emulate it. And like I said, I highly recommend learning other people's guitar solos to start with, because you start to create a vocabulary in your mind of licks and things that you like, and then you start mashing them together, and somewhere along that line they start to become your own thing, which is really, really cool. Really, really cool. I mean, I'm not saying for one second I've got my own style, because I don't. My style is a mashup of all these guys, all my heroes. So But yeah, so it took me years. It took me such a long time to be able to do it. But you just need to play slow. Learn guitar solos from your heroes, that's slow ones. Slash is another good guitar. Like November Rain is probably one of the most classic guitar solos ever. And in all fairness, there's not a great deal going on. It's very simple. It's A minor pentatonics, and the way Slash moves up and down the neck is just gorgeous in that solo. That solo is brilliant. Absolutely. To this day, that solo is one of my favourite solos of all time, November Rain. I remember the first time I heard it is exactly how I feel now. It's absolutely stunning. That solo is stunning. It's a great one to learn. November Rain is a great solo to learn. Same as Don't Cry by Slash as well. The solo in Don't Cry is incredible. Absolutely incredible. Yeah, insanely good. John Frusciante solos at Slane Castle, Jimi Hendrix guitar solo, Dave Gilmour, stuff like Comfortably Numb, Time is a gorgeous guitar solo, and the way he comes in with that is perfect. Peter Green, Paul Kossoff, all these guys have so much you can learn from by learning what they played, and like I say, you start to develop an idea of what you like. I like that lick. What will that lick go into this lick? And eventually you get such a vocabulary, you don't think, and you can just play how you feel. And whatever you feel just comes out of you. It just takes time, but eventually it will happen. But don't wait, you can't be like, next week I'll be able to do it. You won't. You know what I mean? You won't be able to do it in a month. You won't be able to do it in 2 months. You might not be able to do it next year. Just be prepared. It's going to take a while. It's not quick. Nothing's quick with the guitar. Everything takes time. So just be prepared for that. But it will happen. It will happen. If you keep at it, it will happen. And again, you just got to open yourself up to it as well, and just be accepting of it, if you know what I mean. You've really just got to be accepting of it. Just let music take you. And it's a weird feeling sometimes, and it kind of feels like it's kind of against your will sometimes. But it shouldn't be. You should just let music take you. It knows better than we do what needs to happen. So when you submit yourself to music and, you know, that kind of, and melody and song, you know, it knows better than we do, and it will guide you in the right direction, you know what I mean? But again, that takes time to develop. That takes a long time to develop. But you will get there. You will get there. Okay, so I'm going to have to move on, sadly. I could talk about all day, but I'm going to sadly move on because I'm going to run out of time. So, okay, so I'm going to move on to question 5 now. Question 5 is a few bits and pieces. So, question 5 is, how do you feel about boutique gear and boutique gear versus gigging man's gear? Okay, so boutique stuff, I get it. Some of it's really cool. But for me, I would never want to own, like, boutique gear, boutique amps or boutique pedals and rely on them. Because I don't want to get my sound from a pedal I can't find in any guitar shop. Because say, for instance, I did a gig, you know, Newcastle, I don't know. So first place that came to mind. So I'm doing a gig in Newcastle, say, and which is definitely wishful thinking at this point in time. But say I'm doing a gig there, and I get to the gig, and you know, say we get there early, say 3 o'clock, well 2 o'clock, say, and we load in and we set up and we sound check, and my main distortion pedal, the Marshall Governor or my DS2, is broken. Doesn't work, won't turn on, just knackered, absolutely knackered. And there's a guitar shop 5 minutes down the road, just, you know, just general guitar shop, or halfway across the city or whatever I can get to in time. I want to be able to go into a guitar shop and buy replacements then and there, or at least know what I want. So if my Tone City Golden Plexi goes, like, I can go and buy something. And I don't want to have to rely on, say, this one-of-a-kind boutique pedal that is my sound. Like, you know, I don't want to have to rely on a pedal like that, because then you're setting yourself up for kind of like, if that breaks, you're like, what do I do? You know what I mean? Especially if you're in a gig situation. I mean, if you're at home, it's not so bad, but it's still gutting. But if you're in a gig situation, I want to be able to kind of like, you know, if something breaks on my pedal board, I want to be able to go to a guitar shop and any off-the-shelf pedal that I want, DS2. Oh, there it is. I'll buy the DS2 and, you know, replace it. Done. I want that. I don't like the idea of, like, you know, oh, well, this pedal was made by elves in, you know, the North Pole with unicorn blood and orc skin, you know, and it creates the most incredible sound. I don't want that pedal, you know what I mean? Because there's too many variables there I don't like. If it breaks and I'm reliant on it, I can't get another one if it's really expensive. I can't get another one then and there. You know what I mean? From, you know, local guitar shops might not have it because it's a boutique pedal. And same thing with boutique amps as well. Like, boutique amps, I don't like the idea of it. I don't like the idea of, like, oh, well, this boutique amp is kind of like, you know, this is how I get my sound. And the moment it dies, it's like, well, how do you replace that? You know, I like to be able to just kind of like, you know, if I'm gigging, because I gig my Boss Katanas, and my Boss Katana dies, I can go to pretty much any guitar shop. They're going to have Boss Katanas, you know what I mean? So, you know, even the Mark II, which I don't particularly like the Mark II, still, I don't like the Mark II. But you know, I would still be happy to, you know, use it for a gig, you know what I mean, and stuff like that. So yeah, boutique stuff for me isn't for me. I just don't like the variables of, like, you know, if it fails, you're kind of like, you know, in trouble, you know, unless you've got like multiple backups, then that's fair enough. But I like the idea of, like, you know, if something, say my DS2 died, or my Tone City died, or my Vox Wah Wah pedal died, you know, I can just go to any guitar shop, you know, in the world and just buy another, you know what I mean? They're off the shelf pedals, you know what I mean? Every guitar shop stocks kind of, you know, pedals that you can use for, you know, for anything, you know what I mean? You can always find a pedal that'll work for you. So boutique stuff isn't for me, really. You also asked advice on sitting in a band mix when you're playing live. That comes down to finding your own sonic space. Much in the same way I was talking about Rory earlier on, about Rory finding his own sonic space when Lou Martin joined. He had to go for a more trebly, a thinner kind of sound to accommodate the keyboards. It just comes with trying to find your place. You know, if kind of like that's the spectrum of sound, and that's the middle. So this is your band here. So that's your band here. You've got your singer and your drummer and your bassist kind of like, well, say this is your singer and your drummer. They're down the middle. And then you've got your bassist slightly off to the left or the right, depending. And then you've got your other guitarist and, say, another guitarist. You've got to find where you fit in that sonic kind of space. You know, you've got to find the frequencies you fit in. You don't want to be having a too bassier sound that's going to interfere with the bass guitar. You don't have to do that as a guitarist. The bass guitarist fills the bass sound, so you don't really have to have a humongous bassy tone because the bass does that. You know, and you also need to think about frequencies of cymbals, because cymbals can eat guitars. Especially loud cymbals. I found loud splashy cymbals, like certain Zildjian cymbals, I found really eat guitar frequencies. And it all comes down to mid-range, I feel. It's not really highs, it's not particularly lows, it's all mid-range to me. That's where guitars naturally sit in my ears, if that makes any sense. It's all about mid-range and how, where you sit in the mid-range, because there's low mid-range, there's low and high mid-range, but I always think there's a mid to that, there's a mid-mid. And you just got to find, in this mid-range spectrum, you got to find where you sit and you still cut through. You know what I mean? And it's a balancing act. It's a real balancing act. You've really got to find that kind of sonic space, so to say. Like I say, you don't want to get in the way of the bass. You kind of want to get out the way of the drums, and you don't want to be in the way of the vocalist messing up his ears when you play your guitar, because certain frequencies can kind of mess with singers' ears. You know what I mean? Trying to pitch, it can kind of mess with your ear. So it's just tweaking. It's just tweaking and messing around and eventually finding that space where you sit. It just takes time. It just takes time. You just got to really, knuckle down and just kind of like tweak. And it's good to do it while you're playing with the band, just kind of messing around with it, going to stand out the front and hearing the band in front of you and you playing, going, I'm not hearing myself very prominently, you know what I mean? And just going off backline as well is important. Not mic'd up. You don't want to hear it mic'd up. You want to hear it, because mic'd up can give you a false reality. You want to hear it just off backline. So if you're looking at your band, you don't want to be listening to the PA. You want to be listening to the band, the stage sound, and you just want to be going, well, I'm not cutting through enough. In which case, which frequency do I need to either cut or boost? I mean, ideally you want to cut frequencies. You don't really want to boost anything. It's something that I learned a long time ago, and a very good friend of mine, Gaz, he taught me that, is you never really want to boost frequencies. You want to cut frequencies. So if your guitar tone is too muddy and dark, don't crank the treble, cut the bass. You know what I mean? Get rid of the low end. If your guitar is too mid-rangey, don't boost the treble or that thing. Just, cut the mids, and that kind of thing. If it's too trebly, lower the mids. Don't boost up the bass and the mid to compensate. Just cut everything off. And, just don't boost things. Just cut things, I've always found that worked really well as well. I've always found that worked better, especially running PA as well. So yeah. Anyway, but yeah, again, it's just finding your sonic space. It's difficult, but it does take time. But you will get there if you just kind of tweak and tweeze as you go. So say, but you've got to find the mid range your guitar lives in, because I say the bass is taken, the high end's taken with cymbals, kind of like, depending on your singer, there's all sorts of different frequencies a singer can go through, so they kind of roam, and it's up to you to kind of sit in the middle of that. So you got your drum, you got your bass drum and your toms and stuff like that, and stuff down here in the low and the bass, and then you've got your cymbals and stuff in the high, and the snares kind of in the middle, and the hi-hats in the high, and the vocalist kind of like roams, and you've got to find the sonic space in the middle, because I find mid-range is where a guitar naturally wants to sit. So yeah, so I don't know if any help was helpful whatsoever, but hopefully it was. You also asked, will we be seeing more technique videos? Yes, yeah, I'll do more technique videos at some point, definitely. And the last part, question 5, was, will you be doing a part 2 with Ian? Yes, I will. At some point, I will go around to Ian's and do a part 2. Ian's actually getting a Oswald, so I think when Ian gets his Oswald, I think we'll go around and we'll have a look. So if that's okay with Ian, so we'll see. But he's actually getting an Oswald strap made, which I can't wait to see. Really, really cool. Okay, so final question, everybody. Question 6 is: I want a multi-effects board. I want a multi-effects board for Gary Moore / Peter Green tones. What pedal would you advise, or would you advise just the Boss Katana? Which one would give me more freedom? Okay, so they'd both give you certain amounts of freedom, but I think a multi-effects unit would give you more freedom than the Katana. The Katana is an amp of 1,000,000 tones, but if you don't have the tone studio, you have limited effects. If you have a tone studio, it's kind of on par with a multi-effect, because it is technically a multi-effects amp. But personally, I don't know. I would recommend the Katana, definitely. I wouldn't recommend the Mark II. I can't recommend the Mark II. It's just not there. I will be doing another shootout with my Mark II versus the Mark I, but I am not keeping my Mark II. I just don't feel that amp in the slightest. It just doesn't do anything for me. Sounds good, but it doesn't sound like Mark I. Mark I's just rule the roost. They really do. I think it's a classic example of trying to tweak almost perfection the Mark II, and you just can't. You can only go one way from the top of the roller coaster, and that's down. And I think that's what's gone on here. To me, anyway. I know there's people out there who love the Mark II, and I get that. But for me, it feels like the Mark I was the top of the roller coaster, absolutely awesome, and the Mark II is just, it's that drop, kind of, so to say. It just not doing it for me. But yeah, I think I would recommend the Katana, but I would also recommend something like a Zoom or a Boss multi-effects unit, or the multi-effects units I would recommend are, like I say, something like the Zoom G2 that I use all the time, or the Line 6 HX, which is just a beast of a unit, and you're spoiled for choice with the Line 6 HX. The HX can pretty much do anything. It's terrifying, pedal-wise anyway. Multi-effects unit, it's the most incredible multi-effects unit I've ever, just in terms of versatility and scope, the HX is insane. I love it. I love the HX. The song I recorded recently, The World Will Spin Without Me, that was recorded just using the HX. I didn't use any other pedals. It was just the HX doing all the sounds. And it's just glorious. Absolutely glorious for layering and for everything. I absolutely adore that pedal to pieces. It's so good. So it's really hard, actually, because I kind of recommend both. So I think what I would say is try both. Just see what you feel. I mean, I'd probably recommend going for the Katana first, because the HX is a lot more expensive. You can technically buy 2 Katanas for one HX. You know what I mean? Especially the Mark Is. So what I'd recommend is, if you can, go and try before you buy. Try going for a Katana on its own and see if it satisfies you without the tone studio. Do the multi-effects in the amp. Is that enough for you, or do you want more? And if so, then maybe kind of like start to look down like the lines of like, multi-effects units like Zoom and Boss and the HX and stuff like that. But if the Boss Katana makes you happy with just the onboard effects, again, forget the tone studio at this point in time. You can access that obviously and change effects, but will the Katana on its own as standard, so to say, is that enough effects for you? Is that going to make you happy? Because that can do really good Peter Green, Gary Moore tones on its own. The Katana can. You don't really need pedals to get those tones. It can do it without pedals, easy. But at the same time, if you want more kind of effects and kind of stuff like that, then you might want to start going down the HX route. So what I'd recommend is go and try the Katana on its own first. Forget the tone studio. Just as a stock amp, is that enough for you to mess around with? And are you happy with that? And if no, and you will know if it's a no, then maybe start looking down the lines of multi-effects units like I say, Zoom, Boss, or the Line 6 HX, which is more expensive kind of way to go, but it is worth it. The HX is stunning. I am actually going to buy myself the new Zoom multi-effects unit soon as well, because I'm so curious. I really want to know what the new Zooms are like, and I haven't tried a new Zoom in ages. So, again, creature of habit. Once I find something that works, I stick to it like glue. But I am going to buy the new Zoom pedal soon because I really want to try it. And it's really cheap, so yeah, I'm going for it. Going for that. I'm also going to buy the new Ibanez Wah as well at some point. Somebody offered me theirs to demo before it went to them, but I don't know. That just felt like it's a really awesome offer, and I'm very kind of like honoured by that concept. But like, I'd rather me just buy it, if that makes any sense, out of my own pocket. You know what I mean? And I'd rather that person get it, before after, that kind of thing. I don't know if that makes any sense. I'd like to pay my own way, if that makes any sense. So yeah, what would give you more freedom? They both give you freedom. You know what I mean? You wouldn't have to worry about freedom with either of them. They both give you a lot of freedom. But like I say, I would start with the Katana and then go from there and see how you feel at the end of all that. So that's what I would recommend. So and then just try everything multi-effects unit-wise. If the Katana doesn't quite do it, try loads of multi-effects and see what happens. And see which one works for you. Try everything. Don't be swayed by what people say. Go by what you want. You know what I mean? It's important. Okay, so there we go, everybody. I hope you enjoyed this Q&A, everybody. If you want to leave a question for Q&A, description box below, there is a link to the email you can submit questions to. There's also my website, Facebook, blah, 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 all that stuff in the description box below, as well as all the questions and timestamps as well. They're in the description box below. That's it. That's Q&A for Wednesday. I'll see you again on Friday for a guitar vid. I have a really, really cool guitar that's been loaned to me to show you. And I'm really looking forward to demoing this one because it's a beast. It's an absolute beast. And I'm looking forward to showing you in it and getting lost in this guitar because it'd be really, really cool. And I'm just looking forward to it. So I'll see you on Friday for another video. Is there anything else I need to mention? Yes, there is. Happy 2020, everybody. Hope you had a good new year. And although technically I'm filming this in 2019. Paradox. Anyway, anyway, future Dave says Happy New Year, everybody. I hope it's a great one for you. I hope it's all good, and I hope you're not too hungover today. And I hope you had a great evening, and I hope you have a great morning, afternoon, good evening, and I will see you again very soon. Have a great morning. Yeah, have a great morning, afternoon. I said it again. Anyway, hope I've answered your questions. Okay, goodbye now. Thank you. I always have a really hard time saying goodbye. It's because I don't want to say goodbye. Goodbye now. Oh yeah, I nearly forgot to show you. It's like I've woken up in Silent Hill today. Really foggy. You can only see right over that way, and you can't. You can only see past that house, and that's it. You can just see those trees in the distance. It's quite eerie, actually. I don't quite like it. Where's the weird creatures, though? That's what I'm thinking. They're waiting.